So this week for Detroit sports was a pretty embarrassing week as the Pistons tank continues to roll on, Tigers preseason continues on, and the Red Wings may have destroyed their playoff hopes with an embarrassing road trip out west. Just pretty bad week for Detroit sports, so let's take a look at this week. Detroit basketball! So with the Pistons, not much to see here. It's just a complete tank job all around, except for one win against the Nets this week, where both Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey scored 30 points each. Damn. It's like you start Cade and Jade together, good things tend to happen, as both players had 30 points each, but for Jade, the 34 was a career high. And Cade Cunningham become the youngest to have at least 15, become one of the youngest to get the 15 30-point games in his career. So yeah, Cade's easily one of the best players on the team when he's healthy. But not much other than that, just the Pistons tank continues on. A tank that still probably results in the 5th overall pick, because it's written in the script already. Once again this week, the best team in Detroit this week was easily the Tigers, and the bad news is, it doesn't really mean much because it's preseason. Oof. But Tigers, you know, it's preseason. They did look pretty solid this week in the with spring training. But, you know, it doesn't really mean too much since it's spring training and it's just player evaluation and testing and tuning for the regular season. You know, we'll find out by the end of March if this all really means anything or not. But yeah, the Tigers still getting warmed up as they get ready for another season of baseball. And now to the Red Wings. The Wings this week were just very embarrassing this week. Just a pretty bad week for the Wings overall. The Wings, they ended last week with 2 losses to end it. Losing to Florida 4-0 in a national televised game. And it really didn't get much easier on the road trip out west. As the Red Wings in Colorado, the Wings got blown out by a cup contender in Colorado 7-2. It was just a pretty bad game. It looked like the Wings had a shot to compete with the Avalanche, with it being 2-2 after 1. And the Wings would give up 5 unanswered goals for the next 40 minutes. And yeah, it was just a pretty bad game overall. Especially against a cup contender. It's pretty heartbreaking too, considering that in Colorado, the entire arena got taken over by Red Wings fans. And they lay to shit the bed royally with a fan takeover on the road, making it a home game. So, that's pretty bad. Detroit Lions would never. But yeah, then it continued on with the Arizona, as they went to Arizona against a banged-up Coyotes team in that 5,000-seat college stadium. That's an embarrassment to hockey, or at least to the NHL. And they completely get embarrassed by the Coyotes, who were banged up to hell and back. And playing the Coyotes, now we're playing a second of a back-to-back. That's pretty bad. Losing to Colorado and Florida is one thing because they're both cup contenders. It shows that Detroit still has a long ways to go to be able to compete for the cup. But losing to Arizona is unacceptable. That was a pretty bad game. Just nothing went right against Arizona, and that was another game where Red Wings fans took over Arizona. It was 99% Red Wings fans. And the Wings shit the bed again there. And then the road trip ends in Vegas against the Golden Knights. And that was in the game against Vegas. That was easily the Wings' best game of the season. Best game of the week. As they played really well against the Knights. They got in a hole early, but were able to battle back. Every time Vegas scored, Detroit was able to bounce back and score and tie it up. So Detroit went toe-to-toe with Vegas until the very end, where Vegas was able to pull away, as Detroit couldn't handle the Vegas Golden Knights at the end of the game. And Vegas ends up taking the win 5-3. And yeah, Detroit loses all 3 games on the road trip out west. Just pretty bad week for the Wings overall. And now the Wings' entire playoff cushion is gone, as the Wings went from being 8-9 points to the good in the playoff race to now only being 2 points. And more than likely Sunday, we'll be out of a playoff spot as of 11 o'clock Sunday. just a pretty bad game overall by the Waynes. Just a bad week for the Waynes overall. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with that fucking garbage patch from Priority Waste the Waynes put on their jersey, since they've gone 0-5 since they put that patch on. I think it's just the season finally catching up to the Waynes. You know, just lacking goaltender, you know, lack of depth on defense, you know, lack of a elite winger, and lack of a center to complement Larkin. And plus Larkin being banged up this entire week, like, it's pretty embarrassing how that, you know, like, the team should not fall apart after losing one player. Like, somebody needs to step up or step aside. And so far, this team is choosing step aside. Ain't that a bitch? Just pretty bad, embarrassing overall. Like, the Waynes are way fucking better than this. But yeah, like I said, the Waynes are like a light switch. They're either on or off. And right now, they're way off with now a 5-game losing streak. And it's pretty bad because before the streak, the Waynes had firm control of their playoff destiny. Now the Waynes are more than likely going to need some help to possibly make the dance. And of course, the trade deadline has come and gone, and Steve Yzerman, what would he do? He did literally nothing at the deadline. He chose to stand pat with what he got. Like, the only trade he made was sending Cliff Cost into the Sharks for Radek Sandin and a 7th-round pick that originally belonged to New Jersey. That was literally the only trade made at the deadline. And Radom was mainly just to go to Grand Rapids just to free some roster space up. Like, they've already called Jonathan Bergeron up. And more than likely, they're probably going to call Simon Edvinsson up. Like, any moves they're going to make to the roster will probably be from Grand Rapids. Because a lot of Steve Yzerman's draft picks need to start making contributions. Like, only two of Yzerman's draft picks since Yzerman came in have made significant impacts on the roster. And those have been Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond. Like, honestly, that should not be the case. There should be more than 2 making impacts. But I think part of the reason that's only 2 so far is because Steve Yzerman has made some of the same mistakes that Ken Holland made. Sign a bunch of players to bad contracts to keep the young players from making the main roster. And I think that's hurting the Waynes pretty bad. You know, especially like, hopefully Steve Yzerman can correct that next offseason. Like, it's obvious that the Waynes are going to ride with what they got. Hope they make the playoffs to get some experience, and if they lose, they lose. Like, pretty much what the Lions did this year, but the Lions were in a way better position than the Red Wings were. And then in the offseason, the Red Wings will more likely make moves to try and go and compete for the Cup. Plus, next year, Waynes will more than likely have both Simon Edvinsson and Marco Kasper on the main roster. Whether they have Nate Danielson on or not, it's yet to be seen. They definitely won't have Axel Pan and Sandom Pelika on the roster. More than likely won't have Sebastian Cossa either. But yeah, the Waynes definitely, like some of Yzerman's draft picks need to start coming to the main roster and making impacts. Because so far, right now, if you're only having 2 of your draft picks making impacts, that's not good enough. And honestly, the way the Waynes have played out west, this team honestly right now is playing like they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Because that's pretty bad. Like, if the Waynes want to make the playoffs, then somebody needs to step up with Larkin out right now for another week because of his lower body injury that he suffered against Florida. Like, someone needs to either step up or step aside. Like, I don't think it's some garbage patch curse. I think it's just the season caught up to him, and this team always tends to collapse in March. Just pretty bad. And honestly, if the Waynes miss the playoffs this year after being in the playoff race for most of the season, I'd be concerned about Yzerman. I think the fan base is slowly turning on Steve Yzerman. I'm not yet. I have faith in him, but some of Yzerman's draft picks need to start stepping up to the plate. Pretty bad, though. But yeah, that wraps it up. But the good news is the Waynes' next 3 games consist of 2 matchups against Buffalo and 1 against Arizona. Waynes need to start getting some wins if they want to have a shot at making the playoffs this year. But yeah, at this rate, though, is it worth even making the playoffs? Unless you're actually going to do something in the playoffs. But yeah, But yeah, no, but it seems like without Larkin, this team just seems like an NHL lottery team. Anyway, I'm out.